The thing about inheriting a ranch that's been in your family for 3 generations is swell. Folks think you don't ever have to explain yourself, like you just belong there, you're part of the land. But let me tell you, people like Karen will make you explain yourself until you're blue in the face. I'd spent years grinding in the city, burning out for some company that would replace me in a week, went through a divorce that left me with more questions than answers, and then my dad passed away suddenly. All the things I thought mattered just didn't. So, I packed up everything that fit in my truck and went back to the only place that ever felt like mine, out on the edge of what used to be proper country, before the city crept in. The ranch, 42 acres of scrubby pasture, old barns, oak trees older than anyone I've ever met, wasn't just a spot on a map. It was where my granddad used to sit on the porch with a rifle in one hand and a mug of coffee in the other, telling stories that made me laugh so hard my ribs hurt. It was home, in a way city folks just don't get. But coming back, I realized home had changed. The town had sprawled outward, developers bulldozed the wild edges, and slapped up a whole mess of beige houses, little boxes all in a row, and right in the middle of it all was the dreaded HOA. With the HOA came Karen, a name says it all, but believe me, she was something else. At first, all I noticed was a minivan that had parked just so, half on my shoulder, half off, like she owned the road. She'd slow down and glare at my fence like she was looking for cracks in the wood, always looking for something wrong. My dogs would bark, and she'd scowl like I'd personally ruined her morning. The first real shot across the bow was a letter, all typed up, formatted to look official, and taped right to my gate like I was some trespasser. It said, "To whom it may concern, it's come to our attention that someone is occupying this property without community approval. Please provide proof of ownership or vacate within 14 days. I just about choked laughing because, you know what I mean, that was about as upside down as you can get me. Family's land had been there since before electricity, long before anybody thought about forming an HOA. So I ignored it. Rookie mistake, I guess. Next thing you know, I'm out mending fence, and I hear the crunch of gravel to police cruisers. Lights off, like they're just paying a neighborly visit. They step out, all serious, and tell me they got a report about a trespasser. I just laughed, handed over my ID, and invited them in to see the title hanging in the living room, framed, yellowed, and signed by my granddad himself back in 1956. They apologized, said they were just doing their job, and left. I figured that was the end of it. Man, was I wrong. Over the next couple weeks, Karen went full throttle. Complaints started rolling in. Said I was keeping goats illegally, accused my generator of breaking noise ordinances, filed a report about my shed being unapproved, even claimed I was polluting the creek. Every time, the sheriff's deputy showed up, tired smile, eyes rolling, knowing they were wasting their afternoon. I'd hand them paperwork, permits, land titles, water quality reports, anything to show Karen didn't have a legal leg to stand on. But she wasn't getting the message. Then one morning, I find this eviction notice stapled to my barn, stamped with the HOA logo, all kinds of legalese, threatening fines and removal. Not a single signature from a judge, just a forged cease and desist order. That was it for me. I called up a local lawyer, someone who grew up around here, who knows ranch law better than most folks know their own phone number. 48 hours later, we had a stack of documents thick enough to stop a bull of deeds, tax records, plat maps, HOA boundary lines, you name it, and a cease and desist letter of our own, this time legally bulletproof. But you know what I mean? Sometimes you got to go on the offensive. I set up motion cameras on every gate, started a little Karen log of every time my dogs barked or a nail got hammered or a goat so much as sneezed. Then I posted a big, bold notice on the neighborhood board. Livestock auction this weekend on private, family-owned ranch land, no HOA affiliation. Oh, that sent her over the edge. Sure enough, Saturday rolls around, and here she comes marching up my drive in a full-on compliance outfit, clipboard, HOA badge. The works like she's leading an invasion. She tries to hit me with her best lecture about community standards, her voice sharp enough to cut barbed wire. She's spitting policy at me when I just quietly step aside, revealing a sheriff's deputy leaning on my feed truck, arms crossed, not amused. He says, "Ma'am, you're trespassing. This property isn't under HOA control. You've been warned." Karen just about exploded, started shouting about property lines, threatened to shut us down, even tried to snatch my phone when I started recording. Let me back up a sec. See, I'd figured she'd try something, so I made sure the deputy was there on official duty. When Karen called me a squatter, again, the deputy had heard enough. He cuffed her for harassment, filing false reports, and pretending to have legal authority she never had. The eviction notice? That little stunt tipped her into criminal territory. She got fined a restraining order, booted from her precious HOA, board unanimous vote, I might add. And here's the real kicker: neighbors who'd kept their heads down before started dropping off baked goods and little notes. Things like, "Sorry we didn't stand up sooner." With all that behind me, I hung a hand-painted "Welcome to the Real Ranch" sign on the old gate, fixed up the porch swing, and finally started sleeping through the night again. Sometimes I watch as the HOA patrol cars cruise by a little faster, windows rolled up, Karen's seat suspiciously empty. The land's quiet again. Some places just don't bend, you know? Some people shout until they can't, and then the land just waits. And this time, it waited long enough for karma to show up and do its thing. So, tell me, if it was your family's land, would you have fought back or just let it go? Where's the line between standing your ground and being a stubborn old fool? I'd love to hear what you think about how far is too fair, if there even is such a thing when it comes to home injustice. Drop your thoughts below, because I guarantee I'm not the only one who's had to deal with a Karen or two in their time.